This is the Retirement Bullpen with Richard Warner. The team at Warner Financial Solutions want to help you feel confident about your retirement, no matter where you stand. Get more at warnerfinancialsolutions.com. Now, the Retirement Bullpen.
Welcome to the Retirement Bullpen, where we're breaking down the financial topics that matter most to your future. Today, we're diving into a subject that often trips people up: qualified versus non-qualified money. What do those terms even mean, and how do they affect your taxes, your retirement, and your financial flexibility? Well, here to help us unpack the pros, cons, and planning strategies behind these two types of investments is our resident host, Richard Warner. Richard is a certified retirement income professional and owner of Warner Financial. Be sure to check out warnerfinancialsolutions.com. You can sign up for a newsletter, schedule a complimentary consultation, and of course, hear previous episodes. Richard, always good to see you.
You too. Thanks for being here with me today. This is awesome.
Of course. Let's go ahead and dive right in, because some of these terms I know I certainly am not familiar with, so I imagine some of our listeners might not be as well. Can you first and foremost explain the key difference between qualified and non-qualified investments in a way that's easy for the everyday person to understand?
Well, I will do my best. I think the thing that I've heard, or the way it's described, that I think simplifies it the most, is qualified really means the IRS can't go into that account and get their hands on it until a certain age, when they maybe force you to take it out or you begin to take withdrawals. Where non-qualified is a little bit more flexible, meaning you can take withdrawals as you need. You have tax consequences potentially each and every year. Now, It's not quite that easy, though, when you start digging into all kinds of accounts. That's the simple way to consider it. So there's different types of qualified accounts. There's different types of non-qualified accounts. But from a simple standpoint, that's probably the most simple way to look at it. Okay.
And how do those differences impact how and when someone pays their taxes? Because we know Uncle Sam always wants his fair share. We're not getting anything for free. So how does it impact?
So let's start with the most popular qualified, the 401k or IRA. A lot of people are familiar with those terms. A lot of people have those or something similar at their work to a 401k. That is money that is taken off of your paycheck. Your employer also is potentially contributing to that contribution or to that account. That money's never been taxed. So when you begin to take withdrawals, you're not allowed to do that until you're at least 59 and a half, other than some rare allowances if you would retire early. But most people are retiring in their 60s or maybe even wait until their 70s. So they're taking their withdrawals at that point. As the money comes out, that's when taxation starts. Now, some people have plenty of money and they don't necessarily need to take it out of those accounts. So the IRS does mandate a required minimum distribution. For most people today, that's at 73. It used to be 70 and a half. It was changed with the original Secure Act, or we like to call it the Trump tax cuts, to the 72 age. And then it was revised under the Biden administration to a 73 age. And now there's even some people that can wait till 74 and 75, depending upon their year of birth.
So that gives me a solid understanding. That lays the groundwork. But when you're starting to build your retirement strategy, how do you decide how much to allocate into a qualified versus a non-qualified?
That's a little tougher. It's going to be very unique per situation. So, for example, if you're sitting across the table asking me that, which you kind of are, it really depends upon a starting point of when you retire. In today's dollars, what do you anticipate needing to live off of? Okay. So that is kind of the starting point for a lot of retirement income planning, is where do we start from a standpoint of how much income do we need? Once we come up with an idea of what that number looks like today, we project that out into the future. Then that tells us based on what we have for available options. First off, the reason a lot of people pack up their 401k with funds or stack lots of funds in their 401k is because their employer's matching and giving them free money. So anytime you can get free money out of a scenario, you can't go wrong with that. Now, when you get past that point, now you want to look at other consequences. What are the tax consequences? Sometimes people are saving for the shorter term. The shorter term meaning maybe 10 years from now, they want to buy their dream home. Maybe they want to pay for kids' college, those types of things. So you would use different types of accounts, because you wouldn't want to fill up your 401k when you're in your 30s and 40s to try to want to spend that to build your dream house in 10 or 15 years. That's where a non-qualified account might come in. The other side of that is sense. If you have a high expense need, if you're telling me I need a lot of money to live, I've got a lot of things I want to do in retirement, you're not going to probably want to take that much money out of a 401k because of the tax consequences and what it does to your other assets. So that's another place a non-qualified account or types of non-qualified accounts can come into play. Now, there's also a qualified account called a Roth IRA or a Roth 401k, which doesn't have tax consequences as long as you've had it for 5 years. So you could begin building up a Roth account as well. And once you've had that account for 5 years, you can take that out after the age of 59 and a half, and you can pull those funds out tax-free as well. The idea with having the accounts really boils down to you want to keep yourself under a particular bracket if you can in retirement from a tax standpoint, because your income not only affects the tax you pay on it, but it affects how much taxation you have on your Social Security as well. It also potentially affects your Medicare premiums and what you pay for that. So when you start putting that stuff together, having those non-qualified accounts can give you places to go to get money that don't have tax consequences or maybe as significant of tax consequence to pull a bigger withdrawal for maybe you need a new car, maybe you want to take a trip, those types of things. Does that make sense?
That makes a lot of sense. So there are so many factors depending on someone's stage of life, their income level, their goals, where they're wanting to be on the other side of retirement. But even with this solid strategy, there can be some confusion. Can you help talk to me about what some of the common misconceptions people have about qualified money, like a 401k or an IRA?
Probably some of the funniest ones I run into are people think a particular account is tied to an investment. A 401k is not an investment. A Roth is not an investment. A non-qualified account, a lot of people think of their checking or savings account because those are non-qualified accounts, is not an investment. It's a type of account. You can have a very high returning non-qualified account if you invest it all in stocks. Okay. Potentially, again, depending upon how those things have returned and what they do in the future. Where if you invest those same funds in a non-qualified account that's a checking account, you're not going to get the same type of return. But a lot of people, because of their experiences with particular types of accounts, say, well, I don't want a whatever it is because it doesn't return very good. But the type of qualification is simply how the account's set up. Most of those qualifications can have all sorts of different assets, whether it's mutual funds or stocks or even savings and CDs inside them, if an individual so desires. That's probably the more amusing one I run into, just because people are experienced with particular things and they just relate that investment to that type of qualification.
And we know that, misunderstandings can ripple into how we plan for our future. If we believe a falsehood over here, we're making decisions based on what may not be factual information or fully understanding the concept, which brings us to another facet. So we talked a little bit, obviously about the qualified investments, but how does a non-qualified investment fit into a tax strategy, especially for someone who's approaching retirement?
So again, it goes back to that starting point. What does a person need from an income standpoint, and what are they putting away? What are their tax consequences? So we get to a certain point and we look at, okay, we still need this and this and this and this to meet the needs of, I want to retire at such and such age, and I'm potentially going to live to such and such age. So there's so many variables in retirement planning to answer that question, because there's so many things we don't know. But what we try to do is we try to project those things out and say, okay, this is what you're going to need. So if you want to cut down on the taxes, we should set up this type of non-qualified account because it will generate this type of potential for you to have an account down the road that you can draw on to keep your tax bracket down. That's another place where people will step and go down the Roth IRA direction, if you will. Instead of setting up a non-qualified account, they'll take maybe their 401k funds or their IRA funds and begin to convert them to Roth IRAs, because there's a lot of features of a Roth IRA that are similar, even though Roth IRAs are qualified. This is where this gets confusing. Roth IRAs are qualified because whatever you put in there is after tax, but the growth is tax-free as long as you've had it for at least 5 years. So if somebody starts that process soon enough nearing retirement, they can begin a conversion process and have an account that's not taxable, that they can take withdrawals whenever they want. And they don't have required minimum distributions, but they still get the tax deferred growth at a better level than they do with a non-qualified account, because a non-qualified account gets taxed every single year. For example, your savings account, if you're earning 3% interest and you have $100,000 in there, you're going to get $3,000 a year of interest. That is taxable income. Well, that same concept inside of a Roth, that interest grows tax deferred and then comes out tax free later. But you can use it when you want to. The negative there would be if you need the money sooner than the 5 years, then you've got potential tax consequences dependent upon how you withdraw on it.
Sure.
So it really depends upon that person's situation.
Is there a certain point where it's too late to make that conversion? The window's passed and that's not really an option anymore?
Some people, it is. From a legal standpoint, an IRS standpoint, there isn't a point where you can't do it anymore. There does come a point a lot of times when people are getting into retirement by quite a few years where it just doesn't make sense. Specifically, if they're taking high withdrawals already out of their IRAs or 401ks to supplement their income. Where it can make sense later is somebody who they put a bunch of money away and they hit retirement and they're just not spending as much as they thought, which happens to a lot of people. But the IRS says you still got to take this money out when you hit 73. Mm-hmm. And a lot of people don't want to, but they have to because we got to pull it out. We got to pay our taxes on it. So they'll begin a process of converting above and beyond that. So it reduces the forced amount out and it creates an account that now you get into estate planning a little bit because they know they're not going to use their money or it's not likely they're going to use all their money. They want to pass it on to the next generation in the most tax efficient way possible. So is there a point, age, if you're how far into retirement you are can create a problem, but it really depends upon the situation. There are some scenarios later in retirement it does make sense. For most people, that Roth conversion strategy really works best prior to retirement and in the early years of retirement. But sometimes it can fit later as well.
It's clearly such a nuanced retirement is so nuanced. It really is to the individual, to where they are in life, to what their goals and desires are, which is why we need financial advisors. That's what you do. And it helps us break down some of these complex topics in a way that we can understand. So if you're listening and this has sparked something for you, if retirement is on your horizon, reach out to Warner Financial Solution. Sign up for their newsletter, schedule a time to talk. You can also call at 402-274-9185. Ask the questions that maybe we didn't have a chance to cover today, but make an appointment with Richard. As you can see, so easy to talk to and very knowledgeable on the subject. So Richard, we really appreciate you. Is there anything that we missed? Any final words on this topic that you want to share?
Well, just kind of to reiterate what you just said there, it is so specific to each situation. A lot of people think, hey, my sister, my brother, my uncle, my mom, my dad, my friend, whatever did this, I should do this. Their situation is not your situation. Everybody's situation is unique when you would do something and when you would not do something. So it's very important to have a very good understanding of where you're trying to go and what you have in your situation from accounts and needs and income sources to create that game plan of making sure you don't run out of money. So it makes a lot of sense to take a step to sit down with somebody and have this conversation and see what you can do.
I'm starting to learn that retirement is a lot like clothes, and I'm going to give it that feminine analogy where an outfit might look great on somebody else, but you put it on and it does not fit you the same way.
That's actually a good analogy.
Oh, well, thank you.
It can be, yeah. I mean, that's a good analogy.
Well, thank you, Richard. It's always a delight speaking with you, and we'll talk again soon.
Sounds good. Thanks.
Insurance products are offered through the insurance business Warner Financial. Warner Financial is also an investment advisory practice that offers products and services through Impact Partnership Wealth, LLC, IPW, a registered investment advisor. IPW does not offer insurance products. The insurance products offered by Warner Financial are not subject to investment advisor requirements. NPN number 7617022. Investing involves risk, including the potential loss of principal. Any references to protection, safety, or lifetime income generally refer to fixed insurance products, never securities or investments. Insurance guarantees are backed by the financial strength and claims-paying abilities of the issuing carrier. This podcast is intended for informational purposes only. It is not intended to be used as the sole basis for financial decisions, nor should it be considered as advice designed to meet the particular needs of an individual situation. Warner Financial is not permitted to offer, and no statement made during this show shall constitute tax or legal advice. Our firm is not affiliated with or endorsed by the U.S. government or any governmental agency. The information and opinions contained herein provided by third parties have been obtained from sources believed to be reliable, but accuracy and completeness cannot be guaranteed by Warner Financial. Please remember that converting an employer plan account to a Roth IRA is a taxable event. Increased taxable income from the Roth IRA conversion may have several consequences. Be sure to consult with a qualified tax advisor before making any decisions regarding your IRA. IPW provides services without regard to political affiliation, and the views of the individual advisors are not necessarily the views of IPW.